Krishna Parabrahmane Namaha. According to Adi Shankara's Advaita philosophy, this world is illusion, Maya. Only Brahman is truth. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Only Brahma is truthful, but this entire world is Maya. We have adopted some sort of superstitions because of avidya, illiteracy. Due to illiteracy, our ancient people, most of them were created themselves some superstitious beliefs. It is going on even now. Why? Because they never come to find out into reality. They never assessed about the reality. Even they never went through the practical thinking. Somebody said they used to follow. Because of that, even now we are following. Everything is in the world is called Maya. Life, the family, everything is Maya. If you go through Adi Shankara's Bhadagovindam, you will come to know. Adi Shankara properly utilized the term of Maya and Avidya to educate the people to know the reality, which is ultimate goal, only the lotus feet of Lord. That should be maintained by us. So totally basing on this, today I took the topic of Maya and Avidya. Let us go with prayer. Mrutyunjayaya Rudraya Nilakantaya Shambhave Amruteshaya Shakyaya Shri Mahadevate Namaha. Lord Ishvara has produced the material world from the pure impersonal Brahman by the power of Maya. It is now time to look more closely at this concept of Maya. We have seen that the association of Maya with Brahman goes back to beginningless time. That its relation with Brahman is that of energy to energister, that it has two powers, the power of creating and the power of willing, and thus causing error from which it has acquired the rather misleading name illusion. But what is Maya? It has to be said at the outset, Maya defined our power of logical understanding and rational comprehension. It is neither real or unreal, neither positive nor negative. It is inexplicable and indefinable. It is the illusion, the perception of silver, where there is activity only a shell, and that deeper illusion by which an object, seen to the common sense mind to have inherent qualities, or such as sweetness in sugar. Scientific investigation shows that such qualities are not inherent in the article itself, but are our response to certain featureless events associated with the article. On the other hand, the fact that the events do not possess the qualities we ascribe to them does not mean that they do not exist. Both they and our appreciation of them, though not entirely real, do have reality. The relative reality, indeed Maya, is the very stuff of creation. both the weaving and curtain. Maya is nearly, but not quite, synonymous with avidya. There is a subtle and important distinction between the two concepts. When one is thinking of the concept in relation to the impersonal Brahman, the term Maya is used, but when it is applied to the divine spark within the ourselves, the Atman, the term Avidya is used. In the works of Shankara's followers, there have been exceptions to this strict differentiation, but in strict parlance, the word avidya is reserved for the empirical aspect of the world creative process as seen from the standpoint of the individual soul. In other words, Maya is used when the energy of the Lord is seen in its creative aspect. Avidya, when we are thinking of its power of veiling, avidya is a cosmic force that, in the nature of things, veils true knowledge. Avidya means etymologically the antithesis of knowledge, absence of knowledge, but here it means far more than mere nescience. It is not a negative concept. All knowledge covering the phenomenal world are embraced by the term avidya. According to Ishopanishad, it is through avidya that one causes the fall of death, while through vidya one attains to immortality. Both are of equal importance to the seeker. It is manifestly an unsound metaphysical position to say that its origin is in Brahman, because Brahman is pure consciousness and absolute knowledge. It cannot be traced to the individual soul because individuality itself is a product of avidya. Shankaracharya simply says that it is inexplicable. It is an empirical category and an attempt to look for its origin in transcendental realms is bound to prove futile. In looking for its origin, we are really asking why the universe and ourselves with it was created. It seems to be a principle of our lives that we cannot know the answer to this question with our finite minds. We often get further towards it by not trying, by resigning ourselves to the will of our control and accepting the framework of pleasure and pain which is allotted to us. Even if we can get no further than to thank Him for our creation, preservation, and all the blessings of this life. It is better than kicking against the walls. But some have discovered a handle at whose mere touch a whole panel of the wall slides back and they are free. Some have denied the existence of the door. And if we are to follow the methods of search of Shankara and the other sages and saints, we shall not know the answer to this question, whether there is a door or not, until we shall have passed through it. We shall not understand avidya until we are beyond its hold. Though it, we shall not understand avidya until we are beyond its hold. Though then there is no until, because time itself is a product of avidya. Somewhere in every way of life, in every study, there has to be a leap in the dark, an act of faith. Scientists make it every time they assume that their basic assumption of a rational world model is sound, and that they assume that their experiments will therefore repeat. It is a help to reflect that our awareness of avidya is in itself a constant reminder that the consciousness is there. Avidya is, in a sense, supported by the pure consciousness, even as a patch of a cloud which veils the sun could not be seen without the sun's light. The seat of avidya is the antakarana, which, as we saw in chapter 5, is in Shankara's psychology, the inner organ, which in some of its modes of behavior, vritti, is the mind, manas. The intellect, buddhi, or the attention, chitta. These entities can be discovered fairly easily in one's own interior by introspection. It does not need any particular insight to find them. They are among the gifts by which avidya can be removed, the thorn which can be used to extract the other thorn of avidya. The intellectual mode alone, be it noted, is not enough. The whole being and thought of the student have to be concentrated on the goal of remaining avidya. It may throw some further light on the concept of maya, if we know considered its relationship to the various other entities in Shankaracharya's philosophy. To go back to the beginning, Brahman, the pure spirit of the universe, taken in conjunction with his creative energy, Maya, is Ishvara, the personal deity, and running parallel with that cosmic equation. Atman, the spark divine in the heart of man, taken in conjunction with the power to create appearances, avidya, is the jiva, the individual soul. When avidya is removed, the jiva becomes one with the Atman, the pure consciousness. The desires, yearnings, and activities that the jiva exhibits belong in reality not to the jiva but to the avidya. From the standpoint of the Atman, as a transcendent spirit, the Atman as limited by the antakarana is called jiva sakshin. Putting the matter another way, the antakarana is an attribute of the jiva and a limitation, upadhi, of the jiva sakshin. The nature of The jiva is one of the central point of Shankara's philosophy, and he took a good deal of the concept for granted as a part of the common fund of religious ideas of his time. This creates a great difficulty for the Western student. The jiva strives for liberation through the activity of antakarana or concentration is the most important and reveals the eternal and immutable Atman in a progressively higher glory and power. The mind or intellect is not enough to grasp the whole truth, but when perfect knowledge is gained, the mind itself is transformed, as the sky appearance is transcended when the idea of space is grasped. The jiva can in fact break away from the buddhi only after reality is directly apprehended. Otherwise, the buddhi continues to be associated with the jiva from birth to death, and after death it remains latent in the jiva until the jiva is reborn. The jiva expresses itself empirically towards the outer world by means of the sheaths, which, in considering this aspect of the jiva, may be regrouped into three entities of bodies. For example, 1. The material body, which alone is slowed off at death, the rest of it being immortal. Number 2. The subtle body, which includes both the mental and intellectual states, as well as 5 organs of perception, 5 of action, and 5 of vital forces. And third one, the causal body. One has to use the material body to experience the subtle world we encounter in dreams, and the causal to experience the causal world we enter in dreamless sleep. In other words, the three bodies correspond to three states of consciousness in which three different worlds are experienced, though each world is supported by the underlying self or Atman. A liberated sage can be conscious of all three worlds even in his waking state, but the ordinary empirical jiva has three distinct states of consciousness. Number 1, the waking state, when the self is associated with the material and subtle bodies together. 2. Dreaming, when the self is associated with the subtle body alone. And 3. Deep sleep, when the self merges back into its original state of non dualized existence and for a time enjoys its original plenitude and beatitude. In its aspects, as underlying the shells, are being at the core of the three bodies. The self or Atman is called the Jiva Sakshin, which means that it is an unmoved observer of all that Jiva does, enjoys, and suffers. It is a knower of the field. It does not eat, for it is the director of the both the eater and the eaten. And lest the at man's alleged direction be misunderstood as a lifestyle of activity. Shankaracharya hastens to add that his mere witnessing is as good as directing as though he were a king. Ultimately, the Jiva and Atman, the creature and the creator are one. The Jiva is not apart from the Atman, for the Atman is partless and infinite. It is not a modification of the Atman because the Atman is immutable. It is not a creation of the Atman because it shares in the reality of Atman. Some Upanishads speak of jivas as emanations from the Lord like sparks from fire, but neither this metaphor nor the others used in the sacred books should be worked too hard or taken too far. They were not in the nature of the blueprints or drawings of reality. Religion without tears. They are more in the nature of the crutches, and the healthy soul must in the end learn to do without them. Two further of these metaphors may, however, help. There is first the one we have used before, the space and the jug. Space does not undergo any modification by being confined to the jug, the limiting walls of which are themselves in space. Yet the space within the jug appears not only as a limited but also solid by such dust and impurities as may be in the jug when we not move, and yet it seems to be the moving. Even so does the Atman appear to be limited, tainted by sin and propelled by desires to activity when its limiting adjuncts give individuality to it. The essence of the doctrine may be put this: the jiva has five limiting adjuncts in ascending order of five fineness, starting with the uh, outermost. These may be mostly called the material, the vital, strength of the breath, the mental, the intellectual or the strength of the buddhi, and the blissful. These divisions are called shets because they veil the pure consciousness as the shades veils the sword. The Atman, as limited by the Upadhis, is the Shiva or Jiva. Some men of the most materialist outlook indefinitely themselves with the outermost layer of their souls. Those who recognize that living matter is inherently different from dead matter, but do not reach higher than to compare themselves with the oak or the wine's identity, themselves with the vital truth. Those who have sensibility at the level of feeling, nature's artists, identify themselves with their feelings about the world. These feelings may be very subtly and beautifully expressed, but they are no more than a preparation for direct innate experience. Those who have learned to grasp the absolute ideas instinctively identify themselves and the world with what they think with their own buddhi. It seems a lofty and pure outlook, and up to a point it is so, but by itself it is not enough. The fifth type is the jiva, which identifies itself with the joy and beatitude of the Poyo spirit right in the core of the onion. To achieve this state, one has to cultivate detachment towards the shreds of one after another, gradually penetrates deeper. In transcending these limiting adjuncts, however, the jiva proceeds not by dismissing them as the products of avidya, though that is what they are, but by understanding and delivering them in the proper perspective. The material body is not ill treated. It asceticism is practiced. It is to master the body, but not to kill it. It is right to hold wife and little ones dear, though not as an end in itself. If study and learning are given second place, it is not because they are despised, but because they are seen to be no more than the label on the bottle. In the subtle and heavenly joy given by the arts, particularly, music is valued not as an end in itself, but as a preparation for the inexplicable joy of union with the divine Atman within. The other metaphor is that the jiva is a reflection of the Atman is with avidya. When the sun is reflected in water, its brilliance is not in fact diminished, but it appears to be subject to the imperceptibilities and moment of the refractor. The sun is not affected, but an undiscriminating person might imagine that it was. In the same way, the characteristics of avidya come to be attributed to the Atman when it is looked upon as the individual soul. In deep sleep, the jiva is said to attain its real nature. Shakespeare quotes with enthusiasm the Upanishadic saying that the jiva visits the Brahman world today after day without knowing it, meaning in deep sleep. The non awareness of this visit comes only after waking up from the sleep and reflecting about the state of working consciousness in which avidya is able to operate. The later non dualists have illustrated this by a story derived from the scriptures. A boy has a bird tied by a long string to his thumb. The bird soars up on its wings, but finding itself unable to break the strings, slender as it is, it gives up the struggle and returns to perch on the very thumb to which it is bound. It is fed with sweet and bitter berries until it is sated and takes off again. The bird is jiva, the air, the Brahman word, the thumb, the psycho-physical mechanism, the thread, the bond of karma, and the fight deep sleep. The recapitulate. The pure self is Brahman. When viewed objectively and Atman. When viewed subjectively, it is God, the Father, which creates and sustains all things subjectively. Self, then, associated with Maya is Ishvara, the Creator, and when associated with avidya, it is the Holy Ghost that inspires the soul and lives at its core. Within the jiva, it is the jiva sakshin, the sun. Brahman alone is ultimately real. When this reality, this entire is realized, everything else, even including Ishvara, is done away. But in ordinary life, the unliberated soul falsely identifies the Atman, the Jiva Sakshin, with the psycho-physical mechanism, the shades which make up It's earthly vesture. It is our destiny to learn how to look within, to pierce the veil of Maya and Avidya, and find the Atman in all the parts of glory and power. We have the power to become the sons of God, God Himself. The description of the Jiva in Sanskrit bristles with technical terms which have not always been used consistently. Shri Kantaya Kalyana Nidhi Nidhi Dham Sri Venkatramasa Srinivasaya Mangalam Mangala Sarnapare Madacharya Purvamaya Sarvesha Purvaya Acharya Satkritaya Astu Mangalam.